What's going on, guys? I'm excited because today is finally the day that I'm going to show you what's in my bag. You know that I love testing a lot of different molds, a lot of different discs, and so I've condensed it to what I would have in my bag for a tournament round. Obviously, if you watch my videos, you see me carrying a cart with a lot more discs, but if I was to narrow it down, this is what would be in my bag. So I want to run through those real quick. First off, I got the Squatch bag this year, which I'm really enjoying. Tons of storage, can carry a lot of extra disc as well. Let's start up here with the putting putters. I have switched back, and I'm so thankful to have these again. These are the Jawbreaker, the OG blend Jawbreaker Roaches. I putted with these for about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, even when I was with Discraft, and it's the best putter I've ever used. The plastic is unbeatable. It's got good grip, but it's not too flimsy, it's not too stiff, it's just that perfect in between. So Jawbreaker Roaches, go-tos for putting. For throwing putters and approach putters, you know I love the Zone SS. I've got 3 of them currently in the bag. I've got one Jawbreaker Flex. This one is very beat up. It is waffled, but I use this a lot for approach shots and little turnover shots. One of my go-tos for anything about 200 feet and in. After that, I've got an ESP. This is a little bit lighter weight. It's a 167 to 169, but this is my hyzer flip up to straight, maybe a little bit of drift, but great for in the woods where I don't want to throw it super hard. I can get this disc to do what I need it to do. And then I've still got the original Testi Lento Zone SS that I've had in the bag since last year. It's starting to fly pretty straight, but it still has a good stability to it. I can rip on it hard, hold straight, a little bit of finish at the end. A good addition and a good complement to the Zone SS has been the sled. This is a new release from Discraft. I'm loving this a lot more for sidearm. It's a little more stable than the Zone SS for me. But don't use it too much for backhand. This is more for standstill approaches. If I need a little turnover, something that is not going to fade out quite as quick as the Zone would. And speaking of the Zone, I do carry the same Big Z Zone that I've had for probably, I don't know, 7 years now, and it's still overstable. This is my go-to for forehand approach shots, about 250 and in. And I don't see this leaving the bag anytime soon. I'm very thankful to have held on to it for this long. This is by far the oldest disc in my bag. And then for more overstable approach shots, for something I just need to dump at the end, I like going to the Zone OS. This is a good addition. I didn't throw the Zone OS a whole lot, but the more I've thrown it, the more I've really loved it. This is one of the UV glow ones. Incredibly overstable. I cannot turn this thing over. So any type of headwind shot, I don't need it to go very far. I just need it to be consistent. The Zone OS is what I go to. All right, let's go into the mid-ranges. This has been a part of my game that has changed quite a bit, which I've been really excited about. I just put a Z Glide in the bag. I used to throw the Glide when I was learning how to play disc golf, and I'm so excited to have this back. It's a max weight. But this thing is perfect for hyzer flip turnover shots. I don't have to throw it very hard, and it gets a lot of distance. So this is more for in the woods. I don't use this out in the open too much, but if I need something to kind of move left to right, pop it up on some hyzer and just get that slow drift, I like going to the Glide for that. And then of course, you know, I've got to have my buzzes in the bag. I've got 2 buzzes right now. I've got the 2014 M Nats. I know these got popular because of Anthony Barella, but for me, this is a disc that I had a long time ago, and I'm thankful that these started getting more attention, but I also don't like that their price tag is so high. But this is kind of like the old 10 years for me, very straight. This one's got a little bit more drift to it, not as much fade. Still has a good amount of stability though. And then I've got my 10-year buzz. This is probably my go-to disc right now. If I'm ever in doubt, this is the one that just never lets me down. It's dead straight, little bit of finish, everything you expect a buzz to be. Beautiful 10-year buzz that I've been thankful to not have lost yet. And then another new addition to my bag that I've been really excited about has been the DGA Quake. This is one of the Midnight Glow ones. As you can tell, it's dyed. Beautiful dye on there by Throw-Joes. I've always been picky about my overstable mid-ranges. I feel like when I throw overstable mids, they either dump too hard or they're not quite as overstable as they advertise to be, and the Quake is exactly what I've been looking for. It gets good distance, but it's still overstable. So it's the perfect complement to something like my Buzz, where I don't have to try to find a certain run of Buzz or a Buzz OS and break it in. The Quake is exactly what I'm looking for, and I absolutely love it. After that, speaking of a Buzz OS, I still have my 2016, I believe this is the Ledgestone run. This is the very flat glow run. If you haven't thrown these, I highly recommend them. It is truly a longer flying zone. I use this exclusively for sidearm. It feels great for that. If I need to stretch the distance up to about 280 or so on the forehand, just again, a little more distance than a zone. This flies exactly like it. Great amount of stability, but a good amount of glide for my sidearms. So Buzz OS, if you have not tried these and you can get your hands on them, definitely test one out. All right, stepping up to the fairways. This is another part of my game that I've been really excited about. Starting off with my little bit slower but high glide type stuff, I got the Pipeline. I've got one of the Atmos plastic pipelines. This one is a little bit flippier. The Pipeline has never been a disc that I think is as stable as advertised. But what I like about this, especially in this plastic, is right out of the box, I can get this to hyzer flip and just go dead straight. Not really have a ton of fade. It doesn't really flip over, but now that I've had this one for a while, it's starting to flip over more for me. So good for in the woods where I need to step up from a buzz. Doesn't get used a ton, but it won't come out of the bag just because it is so useful. And then this has been exactly what I'm looking for, especially out of the Discraft DGA family. This is a glow pipeline. This is one of the Shasta Chris runs. I would say this is the closest thing to a Discmania FD that Discraft has put out, this particular run. It is very straight, good amount of stability, by far the most stable run of pipeline that I have found, and it's absolutely perfect. Not too flippy, not too stable, just point and shoot, dead straight, pipeline all day long. If I need something a little more stable than that, then I still have my Z Tracker in the bag. Tracker has been one of my favorite Discraft discs for a long time. I use this a lot for forehand shots where I need a little more drift before it fades. I use this more for touch shots. It doesn't get used a ton, but if the wind picks up or if I'm throwing more of a finesse shot in the woods, I like going to the Z Tracker. For my overstable 9-speeds, I go to the Ulibarri Raptor. This to me is the best run of Raptor. It's not the most overstable run, but some of the runs of Raptor I found to be a little bit straighter. This one is absolutely perfect. It is it has enough stability where I can really crunch on it for a forehand, but it's not going to dump and it's not going to fade out. It's not going to flip over. Just go straight, nice consistent finish. I think, again, this is probably for me the most underrated run, but probably the best run of Raptor. Still have my Captain's Raptor as well for just a little more stability. If you've thrown a Captain's Raptor, you know what it does. It fights the wind. It's going to be one of those discs that just kind of dumps to the ground, but an awesome flyer for me. This is a part of my game that I never thought I would have 3 of these in my bag, but it is a fun disc to throw. These might not be in my bag at all times, but this is the new Climo Disc Osprey. And yes, when you hear Osprey, if you've thrown one of these, you know how flippy they are. And so you might be wondering, why do you have 3 of those? Well, these 3 different plastics all fly a little bit different, and kind of right now I'm experimenting with them, but I know this one right here, which is the signature line, this is good for rollers. It's so understable. I mean, if I throw this flat, it's getting down on a roller angle and going for a long way. So I only use this for the occasional roller. Don't throw a lot of rollers, but it is a fun disc to have in the bag just for some trick shots or, again, big rollers. I do have one in this new special edition plastic. This one is more overstable than the signature line, but this is more for lower speed shots where I want to start this out on some hyzer, get it to pop up and just kind of hold all the way to the right without getting that roller angle. It's not quite flippy enough to where I'm comfortable with a roller, but it's really good for woodsy shots where I need to start something out on hyzer, get it to pop up and get that drift over to the right. And this thing is unlike anything I've seen. This is a Jawbreaker Z-Flex Osprey, and it is the most stable Osprey I have thrown. Now, it is still flippy, let me be clear, but for an Osprey, this flies a lot like my Splatter S-Blend Aztec. I can start this out on hyzer, it's gonna pop up, it's gonna drift, but it's gonna get some solid finish to it. Goes a long way. It's got a nice dome to it. And man, if you catch this thing right, it goes every bit as far as some of my distance drivers. And it's been a fun disc to experiment. So if you haven't thrown an Osprey, even if it's just for fun, go pick one up. Ton of fun to throw. And if you can get your hands on one of these Jawbreaker Z-Flex, these things are incredible. Another new addition to my bag, the Z Flash. I had never thrown a Flash before, but I picked this one up and it was brand new. It's got a nice dome to it. And I was surprised at how how overstable it was, because I was expecting it to be a little bit flippier. But the more I threw this, I was finding that it flies a lot like a vulture, but I'm getting a little extra distance with this than I can get with the vulture. So it's kind of like my broken in Onyx. I would say it's similar to the Aztecs that I was throwing, but a really good feel in the hand for me. This plastic just feels really good. And again, it's kind of more that straight to stable type flyer up to about 380 or so. Speaking of the Onyx, I do carry my 2 Onyxes still got those in the bag. I've still got the pastry dye Onyx. This is more stable than the Flash, but it is starting to get broken in for an Onyx. So it's starting to hold a little bit longer, starting to get more into that Flash range, but it still has more finish to it at the end. And if I just need something that is going to go about 350 or so, just on a solid, straight to stable type of line, I like going to this disc. And then I've got my Sparkle, I don't even know what this, Sparkle Z maybe, with the Jumpman die on there. This one is very overstable. It flies closer to a Raptor, but I like it a lot more for backhand than I do with a Raptor. So I can throw this for more hyzer shots up to about, I'd say I'm comfortable throwing this about 330. I can get it farther than that, but really just because of how overstable it is, I like using it more for controlled shots where I want more of a hyzer and just kind of spike in. All right, last but not least, let's get to the distance drivers. I've just put an ESP Test Flight Scorch back in the bag. This is my favorite run of the Scorch. I have not found a run that flies quite like this one. This disc came out when I was on the underground team, and I've always been looking for more of these, and I was thankful to get my hands on one that wasn't too beat up and too used. What I like using the Scorch for is more for big distance shots in the woods. I like the comfort of the 11 speed in the hand. It doesn't feel like I am just trying to rip it too hard. And the Scorch allows me to throw it with some control and get some good glide and just kind of get the disc to work off the angle rather than me having to power up on it. So the Scorch, very good disc. I love these test flights. So if you got any more of these, hit me up. I'd love to have a couple more just as some backups. Then getting in to some big distance shots, I've got the Z-Lite crank. Yes, that's right. I said the Z-Lite crank. And I know that sounds a little bit odd for somebody that probably throws, I don't know, 450-ish. But if you have not thrown one of these Z-Lite cranks, they will surprise you. They go extremely far, and they are not as not as understable as you would expect. It is more of my flippy driver, but it has some stability to it, and I am amazed every time I throw this. I think this is more stable than some of the other runs of crank that I've thrown, especially even in the heavyweight. So Z-Lite crank, I mean, I tried it. I was embarrassed at first to kind of throw it, but the more I threw it, the more I was amazed by it. So it's in the bag, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore, that's for sure. Probably my go-to distance driver, though, at the moment is the Nuke. I've got 2 Nukes in the bag. I've got one of the Z Nukes. This is, I think, a 167 weight, nice pop top. Good amount of stability, but I can still get a big distance on it. I can't throw the max weights. They're just too overstable for me. So having something a little bit lighter that is still going to be overstable, but get me some good distance. This one's great for that. And the same is true for these old pre-flight number ESP ones. This is my favorite run of Nuke. I can't find many of these, so if you got any of these as well, hit me up. But nice pop top on this guy, and this is probably my go-to. I mean, it just comes out of the hand so clean, gets a good amount of glide, and has a great amount of stability, but it's starting to get that turn for me. I wouldn't say it's as understable as the crank, but it's starting to get that pop up and a little bit of drift. So ESP Nuke, probably my go-to distance driver at the moment. Last but not least, we got my overstable distance drivers, which are the Venoms. I love the Venom. Typically I have more of these, but these are probably the ones I go to the most. I've got the Z-Lite. Yes, again, Z-Lite. And this is one I've never been ashamed of. This thing is, I mean, it has changed my game completely because it is still very overstable, but you can get this thing to go very far, especially for forehand shots. I love it for forehands. It goes up close to 400 feet on a forehand for me, which I don't throw that hard usually. So Z-Lite Venom, great for forehand. I've started using this a lot more for backhand as well when the wind picks up. And last but not least, got my very overstable Venom. This is one of the Anthony Barella runs. Nice pastry dye on there. Good pop top. This is a max weight. This is what I'm using if the wind picks up or if I need something to get way over to the right for my forehands. this is what I'm going to be using for that. But guys, that's what's in my bag. As you can tell, I've got an all Discraft bag. I'm very happy to be throwing that stuff. No, I'm not sponsored by Discraft or anything like that, but just finding that's what I'm gravitating to, and I'm very comfortable with their disc, and I'm very comfortable with where my bag is. But always make sure to drop suggestions for me if there's anything you think I should be throwing or testing out. I'm always open to trying new discs. But guys, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.